everybody. It's Christy Gessler, the dependent agent. Thanks for joining me today on this episode. I'm going to take a little bit of a lecturing perspective today. Been in real estate a little over 15 years and been through a lot, and so I figure maybe I have a little bit of opportunity to not really lecture today, but to give you a little speech on some of my observations now that I have come to this side of addiction and in recovery. And in previous episodes, I've talked a lot about the way that the stresses of this business impacted me personally. And I share that. I'm very open about it. I would always entertain conversations about it. I am not proud of certain things that I did in the past, but I am proud of them being part of my past because I get to learn from them. So I decided time to take that all in a new direction. But when I realized what the alcohol was doing to me personally, and now that I'm at this point, I started to really have a much different eye, a very different critical eye when I'm looking at our industry, our real estate associations, our vendor relationships, our conventions, our business meetings. And I looked at them with a very different perspective than I ever did before. I will go on the record unequivocally, I love a good time. Like, I really love a good time. Like on my website and whatnot, I talk about the fact that I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm telling you, I love a good time. Part of the greatest thing about being a police officer was flipping on those lights and sirens and punching the gas pedal. I swear to God, that was one of the greatest rushes ever. So I'm all for a good time. But as I started to look at some of the events and the focus of a lot of real estate industry events, I looked at it at a very different perspective. And I started to see that the only definition of fun out there involved alcohol, and usually a lot of it. Auction items at these events are out of control. They're completely off the hook, but I created them and donated them, and I bought them for years. But what kind of a message does it send when a title company or a mortgage lender, of course there's rules, I know, so I'm using just random examples, that they bring a large basket of booze. And at one event I was at, there was a grocery cart full of alcohol that was a stock your bar auction item for the group that was there. And I was like, well, no, that's really cool, actually, because that's like a lot of booze, and it was nice stuff, and it was really well put together. But is that the right kind of message that we're trying to send out here? Now, granted, we all know and we all appreciate and laugh about the fact that, you can't raise money without booze. And listen, my kids went to Catholic school for many years. Let me tell you what, those fundraising events were a lot of fun, but there was a lot of wine that flowed through those events. And there was a joke made all the time that you got people liquored up to outbid them, or to keep bidding them up, I should say. And hopefully you got outbid at the end, so you didn't pay for the item. But, you did that kind of through alcohol. And so as I started to look at a lot of our associations events, and I just say that on a national level, on a state level, on a local level, on a brokerage level, we have this attitude that we can't bring an agent in to a social setting, or even sometimes to a classroom setting, without the bait or the inducement or the enticement of alcohol at the event, after the event, a giveaway at the event that involves alcohol. It's really ludicrous in so many ways. And I'm thinking, as I look at it, and listen, I was Williamson County Association of Realtors board president in 2012, and I am super proud of that year and all of the leaders that were around me and what we did there. And I'm still very active at that association, and I try to give my energies and anything I can at any time. And we had events when I was board president that had all of those elements. My installation when I was installed as board president was at the Oasis Cantina out here in Austin, out on Lake Travis, at the Sunset Bar and Grill. It was fantastic. It was a great venue, but of course it was alcohol, based, if you will. What more do we worry about on most real estate events than how many drink tickets are being given out? It's embarrassing. It's flat embarrassing. And as I've been around at Texas Realtors events, at National Association of Realtors events, RPAC events, local association events, I am sometimes frankly embarrassed at how some people act about the alcohol before they even start drinking the alcohol. So, you'd say, oh my God, are they a bunch of lushes and getting drunk? That's something that it's a whole other story. But it's the behavior and the flippantness, or that's not even a word, but the lightness in which they take some of those jokes, I'm a little bit more sensitive to. Now, I am not that kind of person that when you're around me, you can't drink. Goodness, one of the first things I did with my friends after coming out of rehab, we went to a happy hour, but it was just kind of what we all wanted to go do. But I can be around alcohol. I have not, hand to God, had a sip of alcohol since November 8th of 2017. I don't plan on it. I don't want it. But in the end of the day, I have no problem being around it, but it doesn't mean I don't still have those triggers. And a lot of us have those triggers. And the fact that my business, my livelihood, my passion in this whole world, real estate, it is the job. If God said, when I make Christy Atkinson, I am going to make sure that she is one job, and that's going to be real estate. Followed closely by law enforcement. I think I was just too chicken to stay a cop because that is such a hard job, and you really do risk dying, and that is a big deal. But I love Boys in Blue and a huge fan. I was a girl in brown because I was sheriff's department, but I really, really loved those years. But real estate is my vocation. It is my calling. And I have been frankly disappointed in my profession and in my calling in terms of the amount of alcohol that I see driving most of the events. And I think the paradigm needs to change a little bit. I think if you are in an association leadership role, if you are in any sort of leadership program, even if you participate in a Chamber of Commerce leadership program, or you are trying to become a leader in your office or in your brokerage or at your association, you need to rethink the way activities and events and auctions and things are promoted, in my opinion. I think we can do it with a lot higher level of professionalism that doesn't involve alcohol, that will take away a lot of the negativities that the public thinks about us when they come to thinking about a realtor. And I will share a very poignant story about that very fact with you. I was no more out of rehab 2 to 3 weeks. I was finally ready to kind of go back out with some friends in my husband's circle of friends. We had very different circles of friends for various reasons. But I remember specifically there was a little gathering of them, and I was going to go. And I was pretty excited to go see everybody. And, I was feeling good, and I was, at a good place at that point. Not great, but I felt rested, and I was good to go. So I went to this event, and no more than 5 or 6 people of his friend circle, which was high-tech, corporate, executive level people, men and women, they all said to me that they weren't surprised that I ended up in rehab because most realtors should be there. That was their opinion. They said, point blank, your industry is known as the party industry that would rather drink and carry on and dress up in funny costumes at events than actually handle the most important transaction of my life. Why would I want to have somebody that's on social media dressed up in tutus and tube socks, drinking beer, doing whatever? Is that the person that I really want to hire to have there be my largest transaction of my life and my family's life? It doesn't make sense to me anymore because I'm looking at it now from a very different perspective. So at that event where there are corporate executives there, and I had done a lot of real estate business with these same corporate executives. I had done relocation work for them, and I respected them immensely. I still do. We had a great business relationship. So their words mattered to me a lot because I knew those people. And I knew they weren't just saying it to be ugly or spiteful. They were honestly giving me feedback that said that in this area of the alcohol and the partying, that our industry is truly the laughing stock of the corporate world. And I'll tell you what, that right there hit me like a 2x4 between my eyes. And I said, you know what? If nothing else, I got to do something to try to change that. That may be where the dependent agent kind of got its birth, right? When I thought, okay, we got to do something about that. So in the end of the day, I took those words to heart and I said, yeah, I don't think this is the right thing anymore. I don't think this is what we should be promoting. I don't think that the vast majority of realtors, I believe, are in agreement with me at this point that our events do not need alcohol. We do not need to be focused on happy hours and networking events, having it just be how many drink tickets do you get. And, in association management and in leadership, we talk a lot about liability and insurance and the vast amount of money that associations are wasting trying to gather enough liability insurance to offset a possible claim if somebody leaves an event, a golf tournament, a happy hour, a mixer, a bus tour, any of that stuff. If they leave and they drive home drunk and kill somebody, the association just sits back and tries to man up and get enough insurance to try to make sure that they can withstand the legal storm. Well, that seems really backwards, because in the end of the day, that costs you a lot of money. And oh, by the way, somebody may have died as a result of that. Okay, that's kind of a big deal. To be very, very, that's really big deal. I don't understand why we're not focusing more on preventing the really big deal than we are making sure we have enough insurance to cover it. So if you're in leadership, I think it's time you turn around and take a look at yourself and at your leadership team and your brokerage management. And if you're a broker, look yourself right in the mirror and go, am I purporting the right thing? Do I have the right message that I am sending out in my role as a leader? One thing I learned as a cop, you're on duty 24/7. No matter what you are doing, the public looks at you as being on duty 24/7. So if you want to have that private life and go to Vegas and do your thing, okay, fine, but there might be ramifications of that. I put forth to you that realtors are no different, and we should start acting that way. So thank you very much for listening to my rant today. I would love to hear more about your thoughts on this topic, especially if you are an industry leader. And after you've had a few minutes to reflect on yourself and your behavior, and maybe your business plan and your strategic plan might need to change a little bit. So hit me up. Let's start the conversation. Thank y'all. Have a great day. The Dependent Agent, Christy Gessler, thedependentagent.com. Start the conversation there. Talk to y'all soon.